The morning air is crisp outside Buckingham Palace, where a line of tourists stretches along the iron gates. The iconic red tunics of the household guard stand sentinel, their faces impassive under towering bearskin hats. The crowd buzzes with excitement, cameras flashing as the changing of the guard ceremony approaches. Amid the chatter, one figure stands apart. A woman, middle-aged, grips a folded Union Jack flag tightly with both hands. The flag is worn, its edges frayed, its colors faded from time. She stands motionless, her eyes fixed on the palace gates, oblivious to the bustle around her. Her posture is rigid, her expression unreadable, yet heavy with purpose. A young guardsman, stationed just beyond the barrier, notices her. His eyes flicker briefly from their trained forward stare. In that fleeting moment, their gazes meet, hers brimming with unspoken grief, his softening with recognition. What happens next silences the crowd. The guardsman steps forward, a subtle but unprecedented move. He reaches for the poppy pinned to his tunic, removes it, and places it gently on the barrier near her. Then, in a gesture that defies centuries of protocol, he bows his head, not a salute, but a bow of respect. The crowd freezes. A child's whisper cuts through the stillness. Someone gasps. The moment Sharain, lasting mere seconds, feels eternal. The woman's hands tremble as she clutches the flag tighter, her eyes welling with tears. The guardsman returns to his post, but the air has shifted. Something profound has transpired. Eleanor Whitmore is 62, a woman whose life has been shaped by loss. She lives in a modest flat in Leeds, surrounded by memories of her only child, Sergeant Harry Whitmore. Harry was a Royal Marine, a decorated soldier who died in Afghanistan in 2013 at the age of 29. He was killed during a Taliban ambush while shielding two wounded comrades, an act of heroism that earned him a posthumous George Cross. Eleanor remembers Harry as a boy who loved climbing trees and dreamed of serving his country. He enlisted at 18, driven by a quiet sense of duty. His letters home were brief but warm, always ending with a promise to visit soon. When the telegram arrived, it shattered Eleanor's world. The folded flag, presented at his funeral, is her most cherished possession, a tangible link to the son she lost. Since Harry's death, Eleanor has lived quietly, working part-time at a library and volunteering at a veterans charity. Each year, on the anniversary of his death, June 14th, she travels to London. She stands outside Buckingham Palace, holding the flag. In a private ritual of remembrance, she does not seek attention or sympathy. She comes to honor Harry, to feel close to him in a place that symbolizes the nation he served. Eleanor is not a public figure, nor does she wish to be. Her grief is private, her strength understated, yet her annual pilgrimage has become a quiet tradition, noticed by a few regular palace visitors, but never acknowledged until this year. Private Ryan Alden is a newcomer to the household guard, having joined less than a year ago. At 26, he is proud to wear the scarlet tunic, a symbol of his commitment to duty. Raised in a working-class family in Manchester, Ryan grew up hearing stories of his great-uncle, a D-Day veteran. Those tales inspired him to enlist, seeking a life of purpose. The training for the Guard is grueling, both physically and mentally. Recruits are drilled in precision, discipline, and stoicism. During ceremonial duties, they must remain motionless, their eyes fixed ahead, impervious to distractions. Interaction with the public is strictly forbidden. A glance, a nod, a step out of line. Any deviation risks reprimand. Ryan has internalized these rules, striving to embody the Guard's legacy. Yet Ryan carries a personal weight. His older brother, a soldier, was injured in Iraq and now lives with PTSD. Ryan has seen the toll of war, not just on those who fight, but on the families left behind. This awareness lingers as he stands watch, a quiet undercurrent beneath his disciplined exterior. When Ryan notices Eleanor, it is the flag that catches his eye. A soldier's flag, folded with the precision of a military funeral. Then he sees her face, the raw grief in her eyes. In that moment, protocol clashes with instinct. He acts, not out of defiance, but from a deeper sense of duty. one that transcends rules. The ceremony is in full swing, the band's music echoing across the palace forecourt. The crowd watches the guards march in perfect synchrony, their boots striking the pavement in unison. Eleanor stands at the barrier, her flag held close, her presence almost invisible amid the spectacle. Ryan, posted near the gates, maintains his rigid stance, but as the music fades and a moment of silence begins, he glances at Eleanor. Her eyes are locked on the flag, her lips trembling as if whispering to someone unseen. The sight stirs something in Ryan, a memory of his brother, of the families he's met at veterans' events, of the unspoken pain they carry. Without fully understanding why, Ryan takes a single step forward. The movement is slight, barely noticeable to most, but to those nearby, it is seismic. He reaches for the poppy on his tunic, a symbol of remembrance worn by all guards during ceremonial seasons. His fingers work quickly. Unpinning it, he leans forward, placing the poppy on the barrier, just inches from Eleanor's hands. Then he bows his head. It is not the crisp salute of a soldier, but a slow, deliberate gesture of respect. The act lasts only a moment, but it is enough. Eleanor looks up, startled, her eyes meeting his. For the first time in years, she feels seen. The crowd reacts instantly. A woman nearby lets out a soft sob. A man removes his hat, clutching it to his chest. Tourists, unaware of the protocol's weight, sense the moment's gravity. A few begin to clap, but the sound fades as others hush them, honoring the silence. Ryan steps back, resuming his post, his face once again impassive, but the moment lingers, etched into the memory of all who witnessed it, unknown to Ryan or Eleanor. A bystander captures the scene on their phone. The 90-second clip, shaky but clear, begins with Eleanor's solitary figure and ends with Ryan's bow, uploaded to X with the caption, "A Soldier's Respect." It marks the start of something extraordinary. By midday, the clip is trending, shared across X. It spreads to other platforms, racking up 5 million views within 24 hours. The image of Eleanor clutching her son's flag, paired with Ryan's unprecedented gesture, strikes a universal chord. Comments flood in. This is what honor looks like. I'm not crying. You're crying. That bow said more than words ever could. British media seize the story. The BBC calls it the most poignant moment at Buckingham Palace in decades. The Guardian dubs Ryan's act the bow that moved Britain. Tabloids, rarely known for restraint, run headlines like Guard's heartfelt tribute to Hero's mum. The clip is played on evening news, analyzed by commentators, and shared by public figures. Internationally, it resonates too, with outlets in the US, Canada, and Australia covering the story. The military's response is swift but unexpected. Rather than disciplining Ryan, the household guard issues a statement praising his instinctive act of compassion. The clip is incorporated into the upcoming National Remembrance Day ceremony, projected on screens during a moment of silence. Ryan, stunned by the attention, declines interviews, saying only, "I did what felt right." Eleanor learns of the clip from a neighbor who shows it to her on a tablet. She watches in silence, her fingers tracing the flag on her lap. When asked by a local reporter for comment, she hesitates, then agrees to speak briefly. Her words are simple but powerful, and they amplify the story's impact. The interview takes place in Eleanor's small living room, where a photo of Harry in uniform sits on the mantel. A journalist from a local paper sits across from her. Recorder in hand, Eleanor speaks softly, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "I don't need the world to know Harry's name," she says. "I don't need them to know he was brave or kind or funny. I just needed someone to remember him. That young man in the red coat, he did that. He saw me, saw this flag, and he remembered." She pauses, her eyes distant. "For 10 years, I've stood at that gate. I've watched those guards, so still, so perfect. I never expected anything from them. But that day, that boy gave me something I didn't know I was waiting for. It was like Harry was there, saying, 'Mom, it's okay.'" When asked about the poppy, Eleanor smiles faintly. "I took it home. It's in a box with Harry's things. It's not just a flower, it's a thank you. A thank you I waited a decade to hear." The interview is published, and Eleanor's words deepen the public's connection to the story. Her humility, her raw honesty resonate with millions. Letters arrive at her flat, some from veterans, others from strangers, moved by her loss. A school in Leeds invites her to speak, but she declines. Preferring her quiet life, Harry's story isn't mine to tell, she says to the journalist. It's his. The poppy, now preserved in a small glass case, becomes a symbol of the moment. Veterans groups share photos of it, calling it a reminder of the families who carry the weight of sacrifice. Eleanor keeps the case on her bedside table, a quiet tribute to both Harry and the young man who honored him. On June 14th, 2024, Eleanor returns to Buckingham Palace. The anniversary of Harry's death feels different this year. She does not bring the flag, leaving it folded in its box at home. Instead, she carries a small bouquet of white roses, tied with a red ribbon. The crowd is smaller today, the changing of the guard, a routine event rather than a grand ceremony. But Eleanor's presence feels significant. She approaches the barrier where Ryan stood a year ago. The guardsman on duty is unfamiliar, his face as stoic as expected. Eleanor steps forward, placing the bouquet gently on the ground just beyond the barrier. With it, she leaves a handwritten note, sealed in a plain envelope. She lingers for a moment, her head bowed, then turns and walks away. A palace staff member retrieves the note later that day. The words, written in Eleanor's neat script, are brief but profound. You return the honor my country forgot. Thank you. The note is delivered to Ryan, now stationed at a different post. He reads it in private, his throat tight. He never meets Eleanor, never speaks to her, but her words stay with him, a reminder of why he serves. The bouquet and note spark renewed interest in the story. A photo of the roses, shared by a tourist, circulates online, reigniting discussions about duty, loss, and compassion. The palace, in a rare move, displays the note in an exhibit on military history, alongside artifacts from Afghanistan and other conflicts. A plaque describes the moment between Eleanor and Ryan, calling it a bridge between generations of service. Eleanor continues her quiet life, her annual visits to the palace uninterrupted. She never seeks recognition, but her story endures. Ryan, now a seasoned guardsman, carries the memory of that day into his career, a touchstone for his own sense of purpose. The poppy, the bow, the roses, they become symbols of a shared humanity, a reminder that even in the rigidity of tradition, there is room for heart. Years later, on Remembrance Day, a new tradition emerges. Visitors to Buckingham Palace leave small poppies at the gates, not for the guards, but for the families like Eleanor's, whose sacrifices are often unseen. The gesture, born from a single act of compassion, ensures that Harry Whitmore and countless others are never forgotten.